Have you ever defended a stranger without knowing who they were, only to realize later that one moment would change your entire life? That's exactly what happened to Daniel, a quiet single father who only wanted a peaceful evening with his little daughter. But one calm sentence he spoke that night, "She's with me," would pull him into a story of courage, trust, and a love he never expected. Daniel Harper had spent the last 4 years raising his daughter Lily alone. Life had not been easy since his wife passed away. Between working long shifts as a mechanic and caring for Lily, most days felt like a race against time. But Daniel never complained. Lily's laughter was enough to keep him going. One cool autumn evening, Daniel decided to take Lily out for dinner at a small family restaurant downtown. It wasn't fancy, but Lily loved their pancakes and the friendly waitress who always gave her extra strawberries. The restaurant was warm and lively that night. Families talked over dinner, soft music played in the background, and the smell of fresh food filled the air. Lily sat across from Daniel, swinging her legs under the table. "Daddy, can I have chocolate milk too?" she asked with hopeful eyes. Daniel chuckled. "Only if you promise not to spill it like last time." Lily grinned mischievously. As Daniel waited for their order, he noticed something strange happening near the entrance. A young woman stood by the door, looking nervous. Her clothes were neat but slightly wrinkled, and her eyes kept glancing behind her as if she was worried someone might walk in. 2 men in expensive suits approached her. Their tone wasn't loud, but something about their body language made Daniel uncomfortable. "You need to come with us," one of them said sternly. The woman shook her head quietly. "I told you already. I'm not going back." People in the restaurant started watching, but no one said anything. The men moved closer to her, blocking the exit. "Don't make this difficult," the second man warned. The woman looked around the room, clearly frightened. Her eyes briefly met Daniel's. In that moment, something inside him stirred. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was the protective nature that came from being a father. Either way, Daniel couldn't just sit there. He stood up calmly and walked toward them. Lily blinked. "Daddy?" "I'll be right back," he said gently. When Daniel reached the group, one of the men looked at him with irritation. "Is there a problem?" the man asked. Daniel placed a calm hand on the woman's shoulder and spoke in a steady voice. "She's with me." The restaurant fell silent. The woman looked shocked. She had never seen Daniel before. But something in his eyes told her to trust him. One of the men frowned. "We don't think so." Daniel didn't raise his voice. "You heard me." For a moment, the tension in the room felt heavy. But Daniel stood firm, tall and calm. Finally, the men exchanged looks. "This isn't over," one of them muttered before they both turned and left the restaurant. The door closed behind them. A quiet wave of relief passed through the room. Daniel stepped back and scratched his neck awkwardly. "Sorry," he said to the woman. "I just thought you might need some help." The woman looked at him in disbelief. Then slowly, her fear softened into gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Daniel nodded politely. "You can sit with us if you want. My daughter already thinks I'm a superhero." The woman smiled faintly for the first time. She followed him to the table where Lily stared at her curiously. "I'm Lily," the little girl announced proudly. The woman knelt slightly. "Nice to meet you, Lily." Daniel gestured to the empty chair. "I'm Daniel." She hesitated before sitting down. "My name is Amelia." What Daniel didn't know was that the quiet woman sitting across from him wasn't just anyone. And the 2 men who had walked out of that restaurant hadn't given up yet. Because Amelia carried secrets that could change Daniel's life forever. The rest of dinner was surprisingly peaceful. Lily talked non-stop about school and her favorite cartoons. Amelia listened quietly, occasionally laughing at Lily's dramatic storytelling. Daniel noticed that Amelia still looked tense every time the restaurant door opened. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Amelia hesitated. Then she finally spoke. "Those men work for my father." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Your father?" She nodded slowly. "He's a very powerful businessman, and he wants me to take over his company." Daniel shrugged. "That doesn't sound terrible." Amelia looked down at her hands. "It is when the company makes money in ways you don't agree with." Daniel's expression grew serious. "I walked away from everything," she continued quietly. "Money. The company. The life they planned for me." Daniel respected that immediately. Not many people would do that. Amelia gave a small sad smile. "My father thinks I'm being childish." Just then, the restaurant door suddenly opened again. The same two men walked back inside. But this time they weren't alone. A tall older man in an expensive coat stepped in behind them. His presence alone made the room go silent. Amelia's face went pale. "That's him," she whispered. Daniel looked at the man calmly. The older man's sharp eyes locked onto Amelia. Then he slowly walked toward their table. "Amelia," he said coldly. Lily looked confused. "Daddy, who's that?" Daniel gently squeezed her hand. The man stopped beside the table and glanced at Daniel. "And who are you?" he asked. Daniel met his gaze without fear. "Someone who told your daughter she's safe here." The man studied him carefully. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Daniel shrugged. "Maybe not. But I know fear when I see it." Amelia looked at Daniel in shock. No one had ever spoken to her father like that before. The man's expression hardened. "Amelia, come home." She shook her head. "No." The tension in the restaurant grew thick. Then something unexpected happened. Lily suddenly stood up in her chair. "Excuse me," she said boldly to the man. Everyone froze. "If she doesn't want to go, you shouldn't make her." Daniel nearly laughed in disbelief. The man stared at the little girl. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then slowly, something in the man's stern face softened. He looked back at Amelia. "Is this really the life you want?" he asked quietly. Amelia nodded. "Yes." The man sighed deeply. Then he turned to leave. But before walking out, he glanced back at Daniel. "Take care of her." Daniel nodded once. "I will." That night, Amelia stayed with Daniel and Lily, helping Lily color pictures at the kitchen table. Weeks passed. What started as a chance meeting slowly turned into something deeper. Amelia admired Daniel's quiet strength. Daniel admired Amelia's courage to walk away from power for the sake of doing what was right. And Lily? She had already decided Amelia was part of their family. Months later, Daniel stood in the park watching Lily run across the grass while Amelia sat beside him on the bench. "You know," Amelia said softly, "when you said, 'she's with me,' you didn't even know me." Daniel smiled. "I didn't need to." Amelia tilted her head. "Why?" Daniel looked at Lily laughing in the distance. "Because sometimes the right thing to do is simply stand beside someone who needs it." Amelia slipped her hand into his. And for the first time in years, Daniel realized something. Sometimes love doesn't begin with a grand plan. Sometimes it begins with a simple sentence spoken at the right moment. "She's with me." And that one sentence had quietly built the family Daniel never expected, but always needed.